Today we're going to do the same thing that we did in the last lesson, except instead of writing an interval notation, we're going to graph it on a number line instead. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to factor. And they do show it a little bit differently on this lesson, but they would make a sign tree next instead of doing the test points that they show here. They would do a sign tree like yesterday, and then determine what way to shade on a number line. They would draw their number line, determine which way to shade. And now notice that the answer they got in the picture is equivalent to the x is less than -3 or x is greater than 4. To save us some time on this video, what I did so far on these two problems was that I factored it. So x squared minus 2x minus 15 is less than 0, factors to x minus 5, x plus 3. I made my sign tree. Based on the sign tree, I need numbers it says that are less than 0. I need negative numbers. Which is going to happen between -3 and 5. On my number line, I draw it. I include -3 and 5. I will draw an open circle at -3 and an open circle at 5. Now the reason I do open circles is because there's no equal to symbol. Adding negative numbers we said are in between -3 and 5, so I shade in between -3 and 5. Same idea on the right hand side here. I factored it to x plus 4, x plus 2, and I drew my tree. And based on my tree, I need numbers greater than or equal to 0. Greater than or equal to 0 are numbers that are less than -4 or greater than 2, -2. So I draw my number line and include -4 and -2. This time I will have closed circles at -4 and -2 because there is an equal to symbol there. I need numbers that are greater than or equal to 0, which are positive. So I need to shade numbers less than -4 and greater than -2. So I will be shading towards the arrows. At this point, if you need to, pause the video so you can catch up to where I am at this point. Alright, we can also graph on a coordinate plane, your xy axes. In order to graph on an xy axis, a couple things we have to remember. First, we are going to use a solid line when we graph anything with a greater than or equal to symbol or less than or equal to symbol. We use a dotted line when we graph a greater than or a less than. Afterwards, we have to determine if we have to shade inside or outside of the parabola, and this is where we will use test points. So, moving on to the next problem here. Graph the inequality and determine if the given point is in the solution set. Well, in order to graph this inequality, I have to get y by itself, so I am going to add the 3. When I add the 3, I get y has to be greater than or equal to x squared plus 4x plus 3. From there, I go on my graphing calculator for help. In y equals, I type x squared plus 4x plus 3. And then I go to my table, which is second graph, and I need to pick some x and y values that are easy to use. If I look, numbers that are going to be easy to use range in x's from -5 up until 1. When x is -5, my table says y is 8. And then it says 3, 0, -1, 0, 3, and 8. From there, do the best you can to plot your points. Again, I have a difficult time plotting on this, but I'll do the best I can. -5, 8, -4, 3, -3, 0, -2, -1, -1, 0, 0, 3, and 1, 8. Since this symbol is a greater than or equal to, I will use a solid line. So I'm going to connect my dots with a solid line. Now I have to determine, do I shade inside or outside of the parabola? And you pick a test point. So if I will test something inside the parabola, I can see one point inside the parabola for sure is the point -2, 0. It's right there. So I'm going to check -2, 0. And the way you check it is you plug it into the original equation. So the y value is 0. 0 minus 3 has to be greater than or equal to. -2 squared is 4. And then 4 times -2 is -8. So -3 has to be greater than or equal to -4. That's true. Since it's true that -3 is greater than -4, I know I have to shade inside. If it wasn't true, I would have to shade outside. The question does ask, does the point -1, 3, is that part of the solution? So I look for -1, 3 is right there where I put the black X. I see that at -1, 3 it's inside the shaded region. So yes, it is a point in the solution set. So I'm just going to put a yes next to it. At this point, you can try the do now problem, which is very similar to the one that we just completed together.